Welcome to the Choosing Cheer podcast, the show about the joy of Jesus in all of life's moments. I'm your host, Nicolet Bell, and my hope is that you'll see his joy is not dependent on circumstances, but rooted in his presence. Let's go there together. Friends, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited today because I have my friend Maghon Taylor on the podcast with us today. Maghon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. This season on the podcast, we're talking about choosing cheer in our everyday, ordinary moments of life. And my everyday, ordinary moments of life include reading your book to my little girl. We are huge Betty Confetti fans in our house, and we read it at least once a day. And I just love your message, Maghon. I love what you have to say in that book. And I think it goes so closely with what we talk about here on the podcast week after week. So I am so excited to have you on the show today. Tell us a little bit about yourself to get started.
I'm a calligrapher and an author. So I am a hand lettering artist. I use my handwriting for all of our products. My art is on all of our products. And I've written 4 books, 2 Betty Confetti books, and then 2 for grown-ups. And we have a company called All She Wrote Notes. And we have a little gift shop in Gibsonville, which is my little town here in North Carolina. And so just several different facets of our business, but all of it just gives the glory back to God. And all of it is just on a mission to spread happiness.
Yeah. So tell us about how you got started in what you're doing.
I have been lettering as far back as I can possibly remember. Like, I was the girl who wanted to carry around a cute bag of markers, like, everywhere I went. And I basically just built a whole store like that. And so even back in middle school, I loved doodling and drawing and like writing my friends' names. I would pass notes in class and, much to my teacher's chagrin, but they've come back around now and been in the store and stuff like that. And they remember when I would do that. But they, I just knew how good it made someone feel when I made something for them. And I wrote their name really special and made that really fun. And it just was a way to spread joy and a way to spread light. My grandmother was an artist too. And so I learned a lot just growing up watching her. And so it was just really nice to be able to do that for myself.
That is so cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Betty Confetti story specifically, because I feel like it just captures your brand and what you are about, and all the other things that you do, I feel like, are kind of a springboard from that. So I want to read you one of my favorite lines from Betty Confetti, and then I want us to talk about it. So, confetti is just truth that chose a much happier life. We're celebrating joy and fun instead of stress and strife. God walks our journeys with us. He knows the story best. Even when we make mistakes, he doesn't love us any less. So the next time you mess up in life, don't run and hide your face. Turn your mess into confetti, friend, and give yourself some grace. I just love this line. So tell me about a time that you experienced this in your life.
Yeah, so I am a lettering artist, and so I make mistakes every day. Either I mess up and spell something wrong, or sometimes I write an ugly letter and scribble it out. And early on in my business, I was too cheap to throw all the paper away. I just kind of had this bin under my desk where I would collect all of my scraps. And one day I got this idea to run it through my office shredder, and out came confetti. And so what once was trash became confetti. And I feel like it's been such a lesson to me with how God can repurpose and reuse and redeem our stories, and how sometimes there's going to be things in life that don't go the way we thought they were going to go. And we might have had a different vision in our head or a different plan. And we may feel aggravated and disappointed and frustrated. But if we let him, he can turn that hard story into something really beautiful. And so I fell in love, from that moment, with confetti. We put it in orders. We, have it on the side of our building. We actually have a big free confetti station at the store that people, when they come and shop with us, they can bring some home. And all of that still 11 years in comes from my mistakes. I've never stopped making mistakes, but now I have a totally different outlook, a totally different perspective. I'm like, oh, that'll make some really cute confetti. Okay, no big deal that's, a mistake, or I did that wrong. That will end up blessing somebody else. And so being able to look at confetti as just trash that chose a happier life, being able to know that we are going to go through hard things, and we are going to have seasons sometimes where we feel like trash, where we feel broken and we feel beaten down and disappointed and discouraged. But God can turn our hard things into really beautiful, awesome things. And I think with confetti, it's the imperfections that make it so special and make it so beautiful. And as people, we're like that too. Like sometimes our hard parts of our story and, sad days or stuff that we've overcome just all works together to make us who we really are.
Yeah, that is so, so true. And I love in the story, Betty Confetti, you start out by saying there was a girl named Betty and she had Jesus in her heart, right? And so I think that is the really big distinction there of going, she was able to have that outlook in the story. You were able to have that outlook in your life because you had Jesus in your heart. We talk about here on the podcast, our theme verse is John 16:33, where Jesus tells his disciples, in this world, you will have trouble, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And it's that same idea. It's okay, you're going to face hard things. Like things aren't going to maybe turn out exactly the way you expected, but you can be of good cheer because I have overcome the world. And I think, some of those hard things are hard things that we can't control, right? Things that we have no control over. They're just circumstances that are in the world around us. And it's just because we're in a broken, fallen world and we don't have control over those things. And other things are maybe because of some choices that we made, or maybe it's hard to talk about mistakes. Some mistakes are accidental. Some mistakes, we go into them, we know what we're doing, but we make a mistake. Other times we go in, we think we're doing the best thing. And later on, we're like, ooh, maybe that wasn't the best thing that I could have done in that situation. So I think with, talking about this, that God can take our mistakes in whatever way they find themselves. He can take whatever circumstance we find ourselves in and bring joy out of it.
And I think you have to give it to him to allow that to happen. And I think there could be times in life where if you don't have your faith and you feel so discouraged and you feel so disappointed and you beat yourself up and you never get out of that cycle. You just kind of let all that pile on and you let that become who you are. But God loves us. Like we are his kids. If he had a wallet, our picture would be in it. Like he's so proud and he's so excited. And I think that if you let him help us, like retell that story and reshape our future, and bounce back from mistakes and bounce back from hard things. Like I grew up as a kid who straight A's were the only acceptable thing in my family. We didn't just want to be on the team. We wanted to be the captain of the team. Like the standard, I'm a first daughter. Like the standards were very, very high, both put on by my parents and put on by me of myself. And it really wasn't until I got to college that I realized I was not the smartest person in the room anymore. There were lots of other people smarter than me. There were lots of other people that got jobs that I didn't get, that I wasn't chosen for a sorority. I wasn't picked for the team. Until I started having all these losses, right? Like things that didn't go my way that felt really big and that felt really hard. And, you get down the road 15 or 20 years and you're like, whatever, no big deal. But in the moment, like those things hurt and they're really painful. But I think looking back, God can still work with what you've got. Like he can still help you in like a hard situation or in a sad situation. Like he wants to make it better. Like he wants to like put the Band-Aid on your knee. Like he wants to help heal your broken pieces. And I think looking at those as a part of you and not trying to hide that away, like celebrating what you've been through, celebrating what you've gone through instead of, treating it like confetti instead of treating it like trash.
Yeah, that's so huge. And I think, with you saying that, like I grew up very much the same way. First child, it's that expectation put on it by myself and put on by parents, right? I totally relate with that in such a real way. And I think, so much pressure, even more so than when you and I were in school, on our kids today to perform at a certain level. And your books just give another outlook, like another way of looking at things. Like, when you strike out, teach your kids, it's going to be okay. You got to get back up there and try again. And our worth isn't found
in that.
And
yeah, just being able to like bounce back, like how you can pick yourself up says more about you than even if you had won it and got it right the first time. Like how you can rally and how you can overcome, like that's what you're going to need to get through life. And that's what you're going to need to be able to keep going when other things get hard, even as you get older. And so when I started sharing this story, it was actually in my calligraphy classes. I was speaking to adults. I would travel across the country for about 8 years. That was my job. I traveled around and taught my happy hand lettering. And so I was talking to women and telling them that and just watching their faces and watching their eyes get teary when I talk to them about perfection and talk to them about how they have made mistakes, but that doesn't make them any less great or awesome or beautiful. And that how we can still shine anyway, like even when we feel like maybe our light had been snuffed out. And so just watching them and like watching that little piece of their heart be healed. But I wrote 2 children's books that were books I wish I had been able to read. The first one being being able to knowing that God still loves me even when I make mistakes. Because there were times I know my parents still loved me if I brought home a B or a C, but it didn't feel like it in the moment, like it was really hard. And I think just having that reassurance, and even as a mom, like reading that to my kids, reminding me. And then the newer book about spreading kindness, like Betty Confetti, like I was bullied growing up. Like I had some wonderful friends as I got older that I still am close to this day, but girls can be really mean. Like they can be not very nice in middle school. They can, one day you're in, the next day you're not. Like, and I experienced that. And so to write a book about how to be a good friend and how to look for people who might feel left out and go include them, because that's God's child too. And one of the coolest things you can do for him is to go love his kids and to be a good friend. And so just to think about, I think at the time I was sad and I just wanted to feel sorry for myself instead of thinking, oh, you know what? I could go invite someone else to come sit with me. I could go pick someone else to be on my team. Like instead of waiting to be chosen, like you could do the choosing.
Yeah, look, that I so relate to that. And my mom would always tell me that when I would get kicked out of the group for the week for something ridiculous, right? And she would say, okay, look around and see who else needs a friend.
Yeah.
Who else needs a friend? And I still hear that today from her. And I'm in adult situations, adult friendships are interesting too. But just looking around and going, okay, who in this room needs a friend, and not waiting for somebody to approach you, but you being the one to approach others.
And it's an easy fix. Like that's not hard to do, but it's like, it's so easy to sit there and be like, woe is me, and I'm like a young kid, but I mean like it was a good reminder, like writing that story, even as an adult and knowing that like, and teaching kids to pray for God. Like I say in the new book, like talking about praying for God to send a friend who will be kind to you, and like looking for people that God puts in your path and looking for people that he sends your way. I think about so many of my friends in life that like, I know for sure that God was like, you and you, let's put you together. Like, let's do this. They need each
friends.
other.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. And I just am so grateful and thankful. I wouldn't be the woman that I am. I wouldn't have the business that I have if I didn't have good girlfriends that have cheered me on and encouraged me along the way. But I think those lessons can be taught when we're kids. And I think if we can learn that when we're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like we can carry that with us into our 30s, into our 40s, into our 50s as women. And I think girls have a hard time with this. And I have a son. I think we are probably going to escape some of the drama that I had to go through being a girl. But I think we can teach all of our children to just be good to other kids and look for kids that may feel left out, and, not feeling like they have to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders and do everything perfect. That there is so much grace to be had, like in the middle. Like it doesn't always have to be wins, A pluses, 100% for it to be worthy and it to be good, because you already are.
That is so, so good. That is so good. So you've mentioned the 2 children's books you have. Tell us a little bit more about all of the facets of All She Wrote Notes, because I feel like you spread your message in a variety of
We
ways.
do. It's continued to grow. It started with one set of brown craft paper note cards in 2013 that were a hostess gift, and my friends encouraged me, and I turned it into a company. I opened my Instagram that night from my iPhone 4 and started building All She Wrote Notes. And for the first 2 years, it was on the side of my full-time job, and it just kind of continued to grow through classes, through me traveling around and teaching other people how to write in calligraphy or how to do hand lettering. And then I left my full-time job, which I loved, by the way. A lot of people leave because they don't like their job, but I was working for my alma mater, which I'm obsessed with. So like it was great. But I knew that I had opportunities that I couldn't say yes to because I was still clocking in, clocking out. And so I took the show on the road and traveled for about 5 years. Every single week I was in a different city or a different state teaching. And then in the background, I was still making cards. I was still selling a little bit online. But the online shift really started to change in 2020. But thankfully for me, that was in the works prior to COVID. So I had taken on a couple licensing partners, one of which was my publisher, Dayspring. All of my 4 books are through them. And so I had my books that had come out in 2019. We had gone on a big book tour. I got to be on the Hallmark Channel, like all these fun things. I was in LA auditioning for a TV show, and little Megan of 2020, couldn't wait to see, what was going to happen. And it was all these big dreams, but they were very like far reaching. Like I live in North Carolina and these dreams were in Los Angeles. Like I was just shooting for the stars, it felt like, and it was happening. Like those things were going through. And as we know, all of those things came to a halt. A business that traveled and taught in-person events was no longer able to be happening. But that's when my retail side of the business really started to pick up, and they kind of switched places. So it used to be that it was primarily classes and a little bit of online sales, and then it switched to where it was mainly online sales and a very little bit of classes. And so I was shipping everything from home, and my husband realized that I had product in the garage and in the attic and in the spare bedroom. And it was just, we were having like transfer trucks roll up in our driveway in our cul-de-sac to deliver pallets. And he was like, hey, have you thought about moving this out of the house? Like, have you thought about, this seems like it's not that efficient. And I really hadn't, but I had time because I was home, because I was settled. And I had been feeling the Lord kind of showing me like I didn't feel like I was going to stop, but I did feel like it was going to slow down. In fact, I had only booked out events till May that year, and normally I had booked out 1.5 years in advance. And so I was just sort of feeling this. I didn't know what was next, but I could tell that something was about to shift. And whenever all that happened, we ended up buying a building that was like a 50-year-old building in the town over from us. And my dad and I renovated it into what would later become our shop. And so if I had been on TV and I'd been in LA, I never would have had the chance to really plant my roots here and to grow my business in like a brick and mortar space. And looking back, like I've not loved anything more than having this space and being able to meet my community and being able to be face to face with my neighbors and to hug these kids in real life and sit on my little blue couch and read them a book and like be able to go visit all these local schools and, just get on their level. And like, it's been such a gift. And before that, for 10 years of our company, I was growing online and I was growing not face to face. Like I was still doing my classes and events, but I was just kind of trying to be like big and broad. And where now I'm a small town girl and I love it. And I feel like God is using me so much here, like where we live, where we go to school, where we go to church, where we like grow our family. And I had not sat still long enough to be able to do that until 2020. And so to be able to have these roots and be able to open this store 2 years ago was such a blessing, but it was not my plan. It was not what I had dreamed of or what I had hoped for. But now that we're here, it's like, okay, well, that's what God had working. That's what he had going. I can see it. And if you ask me, like, I'd like to be here for the next 50 years. Like I want to carry the torch on. And it's just so rewarding to me to be able to make a difference in real people that I can see and know and hug and pray for in person. And I will always be grateful for everything that we've done online and our website and our Instagram and social media, everything that brought me as a business and just as me personally. I will always be thankful for it, but I think I don't prioritize it the way that I used to now that I have this face-to-face space and interaction.
Right. Because I would say that, we could look at you from the outside, Megan, and think like you've made it, right? Like you've made it. You've hit the mark. You've reached the followers. You've done the thing. And just to hear you talking about just that longing for personal connection, I just believe that was so put there by God in all of us. And in this Instagram world, we find ourselves living in, and we're comparing ourselves small town girls looking at other people on Instagram and thinking the grass is greener on the other side. What a beautiful testimony of growing your roots deep and really seeing the fruit.
It's exactly that. And it's thinking like when I would travel and tour, and I loved that. I don't ever want to begrudge that piece of my life. It was amazing, but it was an inch deep and a mile wide. I would take a picture with someone and next person in line, take another picture. I would not get to have a conversation. I wouldn't get to sit down and get to know them and ask them questions. Or sometimes I don't even tell you their name unless I'm writing it, or unless I stop and ask. And now I've got people that are like, how's your mama doing? Like, how's your dog? Is he doing better? People we just have relationships. And I saw this quote last year and I have it as the background on my phone now. And it says, I'd rather seek to be worth knowing rather than well known. And I went through kind of a bumpy ride with social media in the last couple years. It had grown and grown and grown, and then it just kind of stopped. And you're like, is this thing on? This used to work. It's not working anymore. And there were times it felt like a slot machine. You could put something online and money, orders, sales would just come in. And it hasn't been like that in a while. And I think you got to be careful not to have your worth tied up in something like that, and not have your success or the way you define yourself tied up in those numbers and those metrics, because in all reality, it's just a game on your phone, and those people are probably on their toilet when they're giving you feedback and likes and comments. And so being able to just shape that in a different perspective has been a blessing to me. And I'm thankful for how far it brought me, but I think I can take it forward locally from here.
How cool is that perspective? And that's such a gift to all of us hearing you say that. I think that it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I feel like, because I've followed you on Instagram, it's like, I feel like I kind of know her. So there is that sweet part about social media. You and I would not be having this conversation without that, but holding it in the right regard is so important. And I think, we have some younger listeners on the podcast, and we have listeners who are mothers of teenagers who are in the social media world completely, and we're modeling what that looks like for them. So it's such a good reminder for just everyone that that's not where we find our worth.
And there's so much good that can come from it. There is so much good. There's so many awesome blessings. It's free for one, to be able to use all those things. But it's just if you're ever measuring how many followers you have, Jesus had 12 and he did all right, he did fine.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things I think I ended up turning off where I could see how many, turning off how I could even see how many other people have, because I'm not a comparison person. I feel like that wasn't really my battle until I started struggling. And I was wondering, am I the only one struggling? Is everyone else? And I think you can get caught up in that. And you don't want to be counting, what is the quote? You don't want your ice cream to melt while you're counting somebody else's sprinkles. And that's what I was doing.
Yes.
And so you need to eat your own ice cream. You just need to enjoy your path that you're on, the journey that God has you on, and not be worried about somebody else's race. I think about when they run the Kentucky Derby or whatever, they put those blinders so they don't get to look at the other people. They just got to stay straight and keep going. And I think a lot of us, especially in the creative field, it can be so easy to compare and to look at somebody else and think oh my gosh, I have done it, and I know that I've done stuff that other people have thought that of. If you post a long, thing of orders or all the packages outside, there's high highs and there's low lows. Nobody's posting the day that no sales came in.
Yeah. Today I got no sales.
Nobody is telling you that. So for everyone that you see, that's really good. And there's been a trend going around online lately where people are social media is fake. I don't like that. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's fake, especially not for us. but I am on a mission to spread happiness. So I'm trying to make you happy. So it's like, I'm not going to come on here and be like, this is terrible. It's burning down. Like the goal is joy and the goal is cheer and smiling and positivity. So it's definitely filtered is what I would say. Like it's run through a lens of like, is this going to make somebody smile today? Instead of, just drama.
Yeah. But then I feel like, even on your page, you shared about your recent struggle with your wisdom teeth. And you were really open about that. And like, hey guys, I'm not answering my email because I'm struggling.
It was terrible. I couldn't talk. I couldn't eat, talk, or smile, which are like my 3 favorite things. And for 2 weeks. And I miss Easter. That's my favorite holiday. Like, I love Easter like other people love Christmas. And I couldn't even go. I couldn't do anything. But it was a rough time. But I did it. And it was one of those things that was like, I had written a post and then I was like, you don't need to complain online. And I felt like God was saying, Megan, I think these people need to see you like not have a good day. Like, I think it would be refreshing for people to be like, oh, she has bad days too.
Even the girl who promotes happiness has a bad day.
She's not happy. And it was so comforting to me. It was very vulnerable for me to do that, for me to go on to, I just don't I could be burning down and I'm like, we're okay. We're fine. But I felt convicted in that and I felt like I needed to share. And it has been so nice because people have come from the woodworks to be like, oh my gosh, it was worse than childbirth. Mine was terrible. Just reassuring me that I wasn't being dramatic. And then on the other side of that, our store was going to be open and I was really trying to doing everything I could to be here. I've never not been here when we do one of our events because a lot of people, they come to meet me or they come to have me sign their books or they'll dress up in their Betty Confetti outfits. And it would just break my heart if somebody came all the way here thinking that I was going to be here and I wasn't, but being transparent and letting people in and telling them, hey man, it's been a rough ride. But people, they brought me smoothies. They showed up with get well soon cards. It was the sweetest thing. And just to know that you're held because you let people in. If I had kept that a secret and didn't let people know what was really going on, I think I would have done myself a disservice too, just not for letting people be there for you and letting people be a good friend to you, and letting people come in, I think is so important. And I think that's not something that I have done in a really long time. And so I'm glad I did. So I appreciate the support.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it just makes you feel just approachable and just a real person that has real problems. And, I think that that's it's good for people to see that. It's just good for people to see that. Okay. I want to ask you one more question. So what's your favorite quote from one of your books?
I love the one you said in the first book about the confetti is just trash that chose a much happier life. But in the second one, it is kindness is like confetti. There's always lots to spare. And when we love like Jesus does, we spread it everywhere. And then it says, God says, love your neighbor. And he knows we aren't the same. He made us all unique and he knows us all by name. You've yet to meet a person that Jesus doesn't love, so let's help spread his kindness while he watches from above. And it's a little playground scene with all the kids. And we were just wanting to make sure there's a kid that has a hearing aid and there's a kid in a wheelchair and a kid that doesn't have all their hair and just different circumstances and different things that make us different in God's eyes and unique and special. And I think it's just really neat to see that reflected in a kid's book because I think heaven's going to look like that. I think we're going to have all different kinds of people, all different walks of life will be there. And so it's just fun to see that celebrated in those pages too.
Well, that is really, really sweet. What a sweet encouragement to all of us. We've never met a person that Jesus doesn't love. And do we think about that when we talk to people and when we interact with people? What a wonderful way to choose cheer in our daily, everyday, ordinary lives of just looking at somebody as just a person that Jesus loves, and we are called to love them just the same. Well, Megan, thank you so much for being on the show today. Tell our listeners where they can find you to connect with you.
We are All She Wrote Notes. So Instagram and Facebook are both All She Wrote Notes. And our website is allshewrotenotes.com.
Great. And we're going to link those in the show notes for everybody because we want you to get connected to Maghon and to order your kids or a kid in your life. Betty Confetti was a gift to us by a friend of mine, and they loved the book and thought we would love the book as well. And so I've got to order the new book because I don't have it yet. So I'm going to order it. It just
came out in October, so you're not too far behind.
Yeah, not too far behind.
No, it's a new one.
So we just read it on the regular, and it brings so much joy to us, and your message is bringing joy to so many. So I'm just thankful for you and the way that Jesus' joy is shining through you. It's a blessing to so many.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor. Thanks for having me.
Friends, it's my honor and privilege to get to spend time with you week after week. It is such a joy that you would choose to be a part of our conversation here on the podcast. You are such an important part of what we do. If you like what you hear, I would invite you to share it, pass it along, text this episode to a friend, like, rate, and subscribe to our show. What you do makes a difference. And remember, friend, we're cheering you on.